brother.
Aaron, once again.
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well.
All right, well, let's get into it. You know, we back with another interview. Today we got you, my mans. Appreciate you for being here.
For sure.
People want to know, man, who are you?
If I have to say anything, who I am, for one, a father. That's the most important thing I value about myself is me being a good role model to my son. I say a motivator more than anything. I like to inspire people. I want to be somebody who people can look at and see the stuff that I went through and how I was determined and persevered and overcame it, and kind of view me as like a role model, you know, but just more so like a figure of inspiration.
I know you as Corey. That's how I met you first. A lot of people know you as Bones because that's what they see on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So kind of just break down the difference between who Bones is.
I mean, Bones was, it's like a persona of who I am as far as in the barber industry goes. I don't want to make it seem like it's two separate people, because I like to be as transparent as possible with anything that I do in life. So I don't want people feeling like, oh, you're one way at a barber show, but you're completely different when you're at home. I feel like I'm the same person. I just like Bones the Goat. That's like a name for me that holds me accountable more so than anything. Accountability is what that name, that brand means. You know, Bones from being skinny, and the GOAT, the acronym for greatest of all time. It's like a constant reminder that every day that my past accomplishments don't mean anything. So if I had to say what Bones is, it's just a standard that I hold to myself, that Corey holds to himself, to be greater every single day. Corey is just like I said, a father. I feel like I'm a pretty regular dude. I like to be myself at all times, stand out. Anything, I never really was one to follow the crowd. Whatever the crowd was doing, I always tried to steer away from it. I was never really a follower. I always took pride in being okay with being by myself and standing alone. That's one thing I learned a lot about as far as, you know, going into this next venture of being a business owner and being a leader on a bigger scale. So I think that's the difference really between Corey and Bones the GOAT.
Gotcha. And speaking of your business venture, just elaborate on what Cure is and what that means to you.
Well, for one, my barbershop it was supposed to be like a studio originally, like a two-man studio. Just me and my boy Patty was gonna do it. Things kind of fell through with that, and I remember one night I was like laying in the bed, and I don't know what I watched. I watched something on TV, and I thought to myself, damn, like, if I die right now, like, what would I leave my son behind? What would be left behind for Kai? And the only thing I thought about was like, I really don't have shit to leave behind for him, besides a few pair of Yeezys, some other Jordans, you know, a 1990 BMW.
Material things,
and not even a lot of money in the bank. I didn't really so much even have like a legacy, because if Instagram just vanished, Bones the GOAT is really like, that's dead. It doesn't really matter anymore. So that wouldn't be beneficial to my son whatsoever. So I had to start thinking about future, you know, endeavors, and just like, what's my next level of growth? What do I need to do next in order for me to be able to make sure my son is taken care of no matter what? And that's kind of where like my barbershop came into play. Was you know, I felt that the area that I was in my life, like the next level for me to grow, wouldn't really necessarily be learning a haircut. It would be learning how to be a leader, learning how to be a business owner, how to be a businessman. So that's kind of how the barbershop really came into play.
So who gave you, or who were some of your influences on, you know, basically carrying yourself the way that you do?
My biggest influence for sure is my dad. It's like, he's my best friend, you know. There's a lot of stuff that my dad didn't know growing up, and he beats himself up about it sometimes, you know, like he tells me he wish he'd have been able to do more for me and my sister, but I always tell him, like, what you gave me was what I needed to be who I am right now. You know, God gave you exactly the perfect amount of knowledge and wisdom to give to me for me to be where I am right now. I said, you led by example. I didn't need the money. You know, I didn't need all the other stuff. I just needed to learn how to be a good man, how to be a good father, how to be dependable, how to be responsible, and how to be a hard worker and determined no matter what. And he taught me that. So that's why my dad is my biggest influence. Another influence that I have would probably be Les Brown. You know, I like to speak, the motivational speaking. That's by far my favorite speaker. I can pretty much recite almost every single one of his messages. I know all of his different stories from growing up, the different trials and stuff that he went to, and I felt like I related to him the most because I felt like the way we speak the same, and just seeing where he came from to where he is right now, his perseverance is what really spoke to me the most, that inspires me. Other than that, I like T.D. Jakes a lot just because he's able to break down the benefits. He gives you motivation from the scripture and then motivation in the world. For somebody to say, if you're not a believer, his message will still transcend to you and be able to touch you as well. So if I had to pick, it would definitely be those three individuals, and probably the most one of all is my mom. I would think my dad taught me how to be a barber, taught me how to work hard, but my mom gave me I got my heart from my mom, the heart of the people to give and to want to give back and make sure people are okay, and the selflessness about her, I feel like I get that from my mom. And even like I was telling you guys before, like the conversation with my mom, like is really what saved my life. Like not even in a sense of like saved it for me to go find something to do, like literally saved it from like me being dead. It was a conversation that she had with me that reassured me that me being a barber wasn't a disappointment to her, and that I wasn't a loser, and that she had faith in me and spoke. That day in her room, she spoke things into my life that have come into fruition now. When she told me athletes are going to fly me around the world to get their hair cut. That's happened. She said celebrities are going to fly you to come cut their hair. That happened. You're going to be in videos. That happened. You're going to instruct. You're going to tell people your story. It all happened. And this is way before Instagram was even popping and barbers were really getting love like that. At that time, being a barber was looked at as like a secondhand hobby type thing, or just a hobby that people did that happened to get you a little bit of cash for like people who didn't have a career or was locked up in jail and stuff like that. So it was like, damn, I can't get a job because I'm a felon. So fuck it, I'll just go be a barber, you know? So Les Brown, my father, T.D. Jakes, and then ultimately my mother are the people that inspire me.
And a lot of people don't know like what you went through to even get to this point. Can you just like break down like one of your lowest points?
Sure.
You know, maybe help somebody who is at that same point as you.
My lowest point was like, it happened on 2 occasions. I can't really say which one was worse because at that time I felt like
They were both
nothing could be worse than this. But I definitely remembered it 2 times. The first time was that night where the conversation with my mom. I had worked 7 days a week. I had just like kind of got bit by like the barber bug. You know, I was liking what I was doing. I was like, I'm my own boss. You know, I'm cool. You know, I'm getting money. Well, I thought I was getting money. I wasn't really getting money. I made like $100 that day, and the owner of the barbershop saw that and put me on rent the next week instead of commission. Now, if you don't know, when you pay rent at a barbershop, you have to pay like that, whatever the rent is, and you keep everything else. But if you're a slow barber, you want to do commission because every cut that you do, you get a percentage from it no matter what. So I didn't have a clientele at that time. So when you don't have a clientele, commission is ideal for you because you eat off of every cut. But when you don't have a clientele and you're paying rent, you don't make a single dollar until you make that money, that amount of money for rent. So he put me on rent for $140. And that whole week I worked and I made $180. I worked 7 days that week. So I left the work week with $40. So it completely discouraged me. It felt like, damn, I put in all this work this week. I got a friend that's in the Air Force is doing good. Other friends that are in college, other friends that are working at banks and have good jobs like this. And I'm cutting hair. I work 7 days a week, open to close, and I made $40. So like the way I dealt with things was that when I would get depressed, I would just sleep. I would just go home, take a shower, get in bed. It wouldn't eat and would just sleep. It didn't matter what time it was. And I tried to sneak past my mom's room to get to my room. And she grabbed me. She like told me, come here. And I went in the room and she's like, how was work? And I was like, it was all right. And you know, if you're a parent, you know when something's wrong with your child.
You
My
feel that
mom,
energy.
she felt it. She was like, come here, come sit down. Tell me about your day. So I went, I sat down, and I remember just sitting down on the bed, and I put my hand on her thigh, and I broke down, started crying. And I broke down, started crying because it was like, I worked so hard just to graduate high school, just to get out. And like now I finally find something that I feel like I can dedicate myself to, and I feel like I'm being taken advantage of already. And I told her, I was like, I feel like I'm a loser. And I said, I feel like the sacrifices that you and Dad made for me and Sunita to have the life that we have right now, I'm throwing it away because I'm a college dropout. I had a 3.4 GPA in college. I was doing good. I just hated school. I dropped out. I couldn't keep a job because I wasn't passionate about it. And I said, when I finally get a job, it's like people laugh at it. It's not respected. You know, I know you guys wanted me to be this, that, and the third. And my mom told me straight up, she was like, I didn't raise a loser. I raised a great man. She said, when people told me to get an abortion because I got pregnant by a black man, God told me to keep you because you was going to be a man to help change the people. And that was it. She said, I didn't get your name from somebody special. She said, I had a dream, and that dream I was holding you, and I was calling you Corey. So she was like, you're destined to be great. And I held on to that little bit of confirmation from my mother, that little bit of, it's okay, we got your back, and I ran with it. And I was doing good, doing great until it was like a year and a half ago. It was like
everything was buzzing.
Everything was good. A year and a half ago, I could probably maybe say like that was probably like my lowest point. Like me and my son's mother, we split up after like 8 years, you know, and I moved back home. And then when I split up, I had just signed a lease with my barbershop, and it sucked because I got screwed over by the guy who was supposed to lend me the money for the down payment, because my mentor found this barbershop 4 days when I think it was going to take him like 3 months. So like, I'll get a few months for me to stack up, and he found it in 4 days.
Damn.
So I had to get the spot because it was perfect. And I had to come up with $7,600 in 4 days. And I had a dude that was supposedly he was gonna look out for me, and he backed out. And God provided a way. I got the money for the down payment, but I had another investor that was gonna give me like 15 bands. I showed him the lease. He was all happy. I haven't seen him since that day, today. And it's been over a year and a half, and I haven't seen him yet since that happened. He used to come get a haircut every other week, and he completely stopped coming. No calls, nothing. He just disappeared. And I had all that going on top of the fact that I don't get to wake my son up for school every morning and take him to school. I don't get to put him to sleep. I don't get to spend that real time like I used to before, like falling asleep with him. I moved back home to my parents' house because I didn't want to put myself in another bill. My dad told me to come back home, save your money. So I moved back home to my parents' house. And I understood I don't have nobody that's helping me with money. I don't have the good credit to go get a loan. Nobody's going to loan me any money, nothing. I'm not going to be able to find no investor. I have to figure this thing out. And I was like, I'm willing to make whatever sacrifices it takes in order for me to get to where I want to get. I had my old BMW. It had some issues with it, and the issues could have been fixed. Like probably a week's work of a week's earnings at work, and I had just had it instilled in my mind so strongly that if this thing's not helping me get money from my barbershop, I'm not putting a dime into it. So I let the car sit. I sold the car and used the money for stuff for the barbershop. I used to take Uber to work. For a while, I was sleeping on a twin-size mattress in my room, no cable, just a TV just sitting there for decoration, and Tupperware boxes to put my clothes in, my sneakers on the floor. I had gotten to this mode where it was just like work, 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 work. And when I hit my lowest point was I got so depressed and like lonely because I went from being with somebody every day for like 8 years, my son's mother, and being with my son, to just coming home and sitting in the room and it's complete quiet. And the hardest part about that was I had to deal with Corey. It made me realize my flaws. It showed me that how lost I was as an individual. It showed me the things I need to work on. So what I did was I wrote down, I recognized the things that I was struggling the most with, and I attacked them to overcome them. And I recognized things I'm good at, and I worked to perfect them. And that was the hardest thing in my life, was recognizing what my issues were and attacking them. The biggest issue I had was women. You know what I'm saying? I needed, for real, bro, I needed to be around a woman every single day. I had to have some type of attention from a woman every day. And it had got to that point because I used that as a way to mask my depression. Because when I sat at home, I would get into this like anxiety, like this deep depression. So I had to be out. Because when I'm out and I'm with a female, whatever we do, I come home, I knock straight out. So it doesn't give me time to sit there and think. I sleep late. I would sleep late in the morning, so that way I'll wake up, shower, whatever, and then head straight to work. I didn't allow myself
to deal with
Corey. And then the moment came where I decided, I cut the women off, and I got with my girl who I have right now. She's one of my best friends for like almost 10 years now. And we started dating, and the day after we started dating, officially, she had to go to Africa for 13 days. And I had, again, indulged myself in her so much. It wasn't just a whole bunch of women. I had buried myself in her to the fact that it was like replaying the whole scenario all over. I had lost myself, but this time I just lost myself in this one person. So she went to Africa. In the first 2 or 3 days, I was sick. Because it was like, I'm not gonna cheat on her. I'm not gonna go chill with no women, but I don't know what to do. Right. I forgot what my hobbies were. I didn't know what I liked to do. I forgot what things were fun to me. I didn't even know what food I really liked to eat anymore. If I liked to read books, if I want to play video games or go to the gym, I was completely sick. And I had to sit there. I remember sitting in my bed, and it was crazy. I feel like it was God that did that, because she went over there and she didn't know. The only thing she had to do was restart her phone and her service would start back up. So I didn't hear from her for 3 days. Damn. In those 3 days, 3 or 4 days, in those 3 or 4 days where I didn't hear from her, only thing I heard was Corey, because my phone was dry. I wasn't talking to nobody. I was at work quiet, sick at work. You know what I'm saying? Literally counting down the hours to get home because that depression was sticking back in. But this time I had enough self-control to be like, I'm not gonna go and mess with these women. But I didn't have enough strength to really sit back and look at myself in the mirror and be like, Corey, you have to overcome this thing. And my depression came from me losing myself, me feeling overwhelmed by the barbershop, the lack of time with my son, a lot of regret in my previous relationship, and then a lot of the mistakes that I made along the way with women in business as well. It all hit me at once. And I had to really like root myself in the situation. And like I said, figure out what my faults were and attack them. Recognize my qualities and perfect them. And I say it all the time when I teach in my classes, there's 3 types of people in this world when they encounter a wall. There's a person that they see that wall and they're gonna look at it and be so afraid of it, they run from it. There's gonna be people that's gonna look at that wall and they're gonna say to themselves, it's gonna look so insurmountable to them, so intimidating to them, that they're literally gonna grab a chair and sit and look at that wall and die with that wall right in front of them. And you'll hear people, the way you recognize a person who's at that wall and they've accepted, they become complacent, is they'll tell you, I was like, yo, I thought you was gonna do this and the third. Oh no, it was just a dream. And that's what they tell you. That's what people's excuse is to desensitize them not being great. Mm-hmm. They say it was just a dream. And that's the excuse that they use. That's how they justify and make themselves feel better about not allowing them to be uncomfortable. And then there's a third person who looks at that wall with a sense of entitlement, like, how dare you be in my way? My greatness is on the other side of the wall. I'm supposed to be on this other side of the wall. I see my greatness over you. So they're gonna figure out a way to get under, around, over it, or through it, but they're going to get through that wall. And I hadn't got to that moment where my wall was there and I had got comfortable and I sat there and I had convinced myself that I'm not gonna be with nobody. I'm just gonna keep my time filled with women. I'm not gonna deal with this and I'll be straight. But then when that time came, it was like, you can't run from this no more. What are you gonna do? You're either gonna fold or you're gonna figure out and you're gonna fight through this depression. And the suicide thought came back up again. I ain't even gonna front. It was so low. It's like, I didn't know what to do. Stuff with the shop just wasn't going good. I'm embarrassed because people ask me, when is it gonna open up? And I didn't know what to tell them. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that happened at the shop was nothing that was in my power. It wasn't like I was just being lazy. It was just literally nothing I could do. and it just, everything was just like the cherry on top. Things just kept piling up, and I got through it. And I got through it because I was real with myself. And that's the hardest thing that people have to do when they're at that lowest point, is be real with yourself, recognize what needs to be done, and understand that I have to do this. So those were definitely the two lowest points in my life, I can honestly say.
So do you think that you have to hit your lowest point to be able to untap your potential?
I believe so, because you don't know what you're made of until you're in a position to show what you're made of. You know what I'm saying? People say, oh, I'm a rider or whatever, I'm a shooter. You don't know if you're a shooter until that opportunity comes and you gotta shoot.
That's fact.
You don't know. People say that they're clutch and they play ball. You don't know until that last shot is up and you gotta take that shot. We all would like to think that we're real, but you don't know you're real until that moment comes for you to prove if you're real or not. So I thought that I had everything under control until that moment came where everything I felt security in was stripped away from me, and I had to figure out, what am I gonna do now? Either I'm gonna fold and fall and crawl into this hole, or I'm gonna figure this shit out and I'm gonna come through this thing and I'm just gonna build my testimony even more.
So what's next for Corey?
Next is the shop. The shop for me is a platform more than anything. Like, I love cutting hair, but I love to give back more than anything. And I felt that me being here is going to present the most opportunity for me to be able to do that, because of the space that I have in the area that I'm at, and just the ideas and the group of people that I have around me. Everybody I have around me is doing something other than their job. They have goals, and I want to be able to be that person where they can come to me like, yo, could you help me with this? And I can tell them, yeah. Like I said at the beginning, and I want to motivate, I want to inspire, I want to help. You know, so I feel like that's the next big thing, is establishing the shop and then doing as much giving back as possible, and just continuing to build my brand and being the best father that I can be.
You're doing good, bro.
I'm trying, bro.
Of you, my G.
I'm trying, bro.
I'm proud of you. So when I walked in, I see all these albums on the floor, man. So kind of just give me a little bit of where your head is at with all these albums on the floor.
Well, to be truthful, it came down to like budget, honestly. Like I said, I did it all, like, for the most part by myself. So I wanted to think of something that would be very captivating for people. As soon as they walk in, it's immediately recognizable, but affordable. And I can appreciate art in any aspect. You know, being a barber is an artist, you know? So I figured, I was like, what is it that I can do that I've never seen before that'll stay in people's minds? And I thought about the cover sheets. The cover sheets are art. This is a way for these artists to express themselves before you even hear the music. It kind of puts a face to the record. Mm-hmm. So I went to a hobby shop and I looked through 1,200 vinyl records, and I handpicked 120 of them, and I placed them down, me and my boy Russell, every single one of them by hand, cut and laid them all out by hand in the shop.
Put a lot of time in.
Yeah, I didn't pay no fancy company. There wasn't no YouTube videos to look it up to see how to do it, because nobody did it.
At all. And that shows just your creativeness, your creativity, bro.
Gotta adjust, bro. You gotta roll with the punches,
always, man. Bro. I'm really proud of you, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Shop's coming along. I appreciate you for giving me
this
interview.
For sure. Thank you for the platform.
It's no problem, bro. I'm trying to make this the template for West Palm, bro. Trying to make everybody want to watch this and get that inspiration to go do their dreams.
I mean, I feel like you have the team to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, I really feel like a lot of your new drive that you have is because of the people that you surrounded yourself with. And I always say, if your crowd, if the people who's around you doesn't intimidate you, there's nothing, you need to come up with a new circle.
Yeah.
Everybody who I surround myself with does something that makes me want to take my game to the next level. You know, like when I went to Ireland, I don't know how to do those sheer cuts and styles, but I went over there and I hung around those dudes and watched. And I learned, because I knew, like, there's another aspect to this game that I'm not that great at, and I have to figure it out. And I feel like you're getting to that point now where you're like, I can do this, I have the people that can help me, and it's just, bro, it's just staying consistent. Consistency and content is what's gonna help you. And if I have to give you anything, any little bit of advice, is make small goals. You know what I'm saying?
Small obtainable.
Small obtainable goals, because every time you knock one of those off, it's like a boost
In your head.
to your head. You know, it encourages you, it keeps you moving. Like, that's why every Wednesday or every other day, I try to get something for the shop. I try to do something productive for the shop, because when life hits you and it knocks you off track, you're constantly remembering, like, hey, I did this so I can make it through this thing. You know what I'm saying? So if you have a platform now, so now since you have that platform, it's your responsibility to make sure you give it to as many people as you can. You know what I'm saying? Don't start hot and then fall off. You have enough people that can provide you with enough content just in Palm Beach.
Right.
Just in Palm, and you got people that support you and want you to do good. You know what I'm saying? You work at the job you have right now, your mindset to just be, this is just my cash cow. This is just helping me.
Funding my dreams.
This is just my vehicle to where I need to get. In a sense, that's what barbering is for me. You know what I'm saying? I cut hair, but barbering is what I do. It's not who I am. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
God gave me, the people don't understand the difference between your passion and your calling. It's two different things. Your passion is fashion. You like clothes, you like sneakers and stuff like that. But your calling is completely different. You know what I'm saying? You like dialogue. You like to debate with people. You know what I'm saying? You like to talk. You like to pick people's brains. But you also understand you have a heart for the people. That's your calling. So make sure you keep it known in your mind, like, this is just my passion. This isn't who I am. This is who I am. And use your passion to create avenues for your calling. And then things will run a whole lot smoother. Because I tell you, I'm telling you from experience, if you allow your calling to take a backseat to your passion, God will make it to where you don't have nothing, and then you don't have a choice but to pursue your calling. It always happens, bro. The awakening, it always happens.
Listen to that.
So make sure
That's the best advice.
Make sure you understand. I tell people, like, it's like the parable in the Bible with the king and the 3 slaves. He gave all of them talents. He gave one 3, he gave one 2, he gave another one 1. He came back seasons later, asked them what they did with them. The first 2 had multiplied them because they took what God gave them and they maximized it. But the last one took it out of fear. Another person who reached that wall, he took it and he buried it in the ground. And the king cursed him because of that. You have a platform, you have a calling. So with that calling and that platform, ultimately comes the responsibility along with it. So don't ever lose focus. Use that passion to create your lane for your calling. I have full faith in you. I know you'll be all right. You know I got you. Whatever you need help with, I'll help you out. You want to come do your interviews, you can come here and do the interview. Just let me know. I'll give you the key.
And we're going to end it on that note.